Hello and thanks for joining us for another episode of Mid-American Gardener. I'm your host, Tanisha Spain. And joining me in the studio today are two of our panelists that you will definitely recognize. We've got Ella and Kay in the house with us today. So let's have them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit more about their specialties and what they like to do outside in the yard. So Kay, we'll start with you.
Okay, I'm a Champaign County Master Gardener. I garden a lot of herbs and flowers and vegetable gardens, so you name it.
You name it. Tomatoes are
yeah,
one of your faves out in the,
yeah,
in the
they
garden.
are. And I volunteer out at Allerton Park. We have an herb garden out there that I kind of oversee. So.
Excellent, excellent. All right, Ella?
I'm Ella Maxwell. I'm a Tazewell County Master Gardener and a horticulturist, and I'm just working part-time at a nursery now, local nursery, Hares, where I've been for a long time. And I have a large yard and enjoy gardening, and brought some peonies, and I know Allerton has beautiful peonies.
Yes, and they're in full bloom right now.
Yeah, so we can talk about those today.
Excellent, excellent. And you know, if you've watched the show before, you know about once a year I lose my voice. And so here we are. So bear with me. We're going to get through this the best we can. So you ladies brought lots of cool stuff to talk about. We'll start with you. What's your first show and tell?
Well, I've been the last 3 or so years. I've been working on a prairie plant garden.
Okay.
And I get my plants from Grand Prairie Friends. They have a
Grand Prairie Friends.
Okay. Yeah, it's a group in Urbana that they restore prairie areas and try to save them. And they have a plant sale every year of prairie plants. And so that's where most of mine have come from. And this is a cardinal flower.
Cardinal flower.
Cardinal flower is a perennial. It likes kind of moist areas. So I'm going to be doing a lot of watering once I get this in. And it gets about 3 feet tall or more, and it has a bright red flower on it that hummingbirds like and bees like. So this
hence the name, right? Cardinal flower.
Yes.
That makes sense.
But it is a hardy perennial, and I'm kind of excited to have this as an addition to my prairie garden.
I love that everyone is starting to move into that native prairie pollinator space. Is native and prairie, are they kind of synonymous?
Yes, yes.
Yeah?
You know,
they are?
Prairie plants are usually native.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, I'll have to look that one up because I don't think I've seen it before, but if it draws hummingbirds, I'm sold. I saw my first one on Sunday.
You know, we had one show up, about 6 or 8 weeks ago. And
an early bird, literally.
And we never saw it again, and I have a hummingbird feeder out, and a few days ago, one stopped for a while, and I haven't seen it since.
That was it, huh? I got my first one over the weekend.
This year.
Excellent. Okay, thank you so much. All right, Ella, we're going to go to you.
Well, I just wanted to comment on Kay's it's lobelia, and there are several different species, and I have the blue one, and I think the hummingbirds like that one well, too. I don't get a lot of hummingbirds because I have more shade trees and things, and I'm not putting out a feeder, and that really I think the feeder is the best way to get them. So what I brought today were some peonies here.
Lovely.
And I love peonies.
Yes,
and they're so blooming beautiful. Like crazy.
They are, and they're so lovely. And there's a couple different kinds of peonies. Most of the peonies that I grow and that you find in the trade are herbaceous peonies. So that means that the whole foliage and everything dies back, and so in the fall you'll cut back the foliage, especially if it starts to get kind of ugly looking, and you can see already I'm getting some spots on this. I think that's just from a fungus. Not really anything significant, but this is a really nice one called Coral Charm, and it has a real stiff, and it has kind of a single flower. It hasn't really totally opened, but you can see that it's going to, you know, be a little bit different because you can see the pollen, the stamens, where this one right here, this one is more like an old-fashioned peony. They call it a bomb. So it's big, and this is the one that fills up with water and then it goes over. So a couple of ways to really keep your peonies upright and looking good. The first thing is that you can see right here, I have some peony supports. Now they only work if they're not still hanging in your garage. So I had to go out and tie up my peonies with twine because I didn't get the supports on. It escaped me, and once they're so big, it's very difficult to try to get them on there. But they have the big circles, and then they have the ones with the crossbars, and I kind of like those. And then, you know, you can move them up with the plant. Something like this really doesn't flop over, but when it gets real big, you know, they can kind of lean. But another thing that you can do is you can take out all the other little side blooms just to keep this the best, biggest bloom. So I guess I should have had a pruner to do this. And you would have done it when it was smaller, but they will kind of rebloom. But this is really the quintessential beautiful one. So there are tree peonies, and then there are these herbaceous peonies, and oodles of peonies. And back in 1948, there was a Japanese doctor who was interested in peonies and doing these interspecific crosses where you would take two different species and you would cross them, and his last name was Ito. And now there is a peony. Unfortunately, he never got to see any of his hybrid peonies bloom, but now there are all these different Ito peonies out that are intersectional. So that means they're between two different kinds of peonies. You can see the foliage is much more cut. They've got really strong stems. There's a yellow one, so you can get yellow in the series. That's called Barzella. It's a very popular one that's being sold. So I do have a couple of these and find them doing well. And again, this would be one where maybe I would want to just deadhead this out so that I get a really nice bloom. And as long as it's staying upright, and right now it doesn't look like rain in the forecast. It's always sad when the peonies are fully open and then we get this huge rainstorm and it just
batters them.
Yes. So use the cages or the staking. You can disbud some of them and try growing some of the other species to get just some beautiful foliage.
They are so lovely. Do you ever, I mean, obviously you brought them in a vase, but do you make a lot of cut arrangements with your peonies, or do you just enjoy them outside?
I pretty much enjoy them outside, but you know, I'm going to start cutting them more.
Oh, I do.
I think so.
I bring them in, and they're so thick this year.
Yes.
I mean, my peonies are just solid blossoms.
Right,
Wow.
And so
you don't want to remove the foliage until it's starting to look really ratty, or later till fall, and you don't want to transplant peonies until later in August, September. So yeah, they kind of have a scent.
A nice little scent to them.
Oh.
Yeah.
They're absolutely beautiful. And then, you know, there's that relationship with the peonies and the ants.
Oh, yes.
So do you dip yours? How do you
just shake them
just give
off.
them a good shake?
Yeah, that's what I do too.
Okay.
Yeah, the ants are there because the peony bud has some resins on it. And
It's sweet, isn't it?
yes,
Yeah.
they're attracted to that, but you don't have to have peonies, ants, for the peonies to open. They can open without the ants, just sometimes they're there.
That's a myth, right? That
Yeah.
they won't open, but they are helpful, right? They do help.
Sure.
I think I read, and I don't know if it's true or not, but they help other pests. They keep other pests away from the peonies.
I'm not sure about that.
No?
Sometimes
Could be a myth,
ants
too?
could actually, sometimes ants defend aphids on plants so that they can harvest their honeydew. I've read that before. So, well, we're still in the air about that.
Yes, so they're
the
there,
air.
but just give them a good shake, and maybe you won't take them all in the house. Okay, Kate, what else do you have?
Well, I have, if I can get it out here, a dahlia tuber.
Ooh.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about planting dahlias. This actually is a big, they call them dinner plate dahlias.
Oh, yes.
And it'll get about 4 feet tall, and the flower will be 6 to 8 inches in diameter. I love dahlias. I've grown them for years. And to plant them, you want to dig a hole about a foot deep. And then you put the tuber in. There's kind of, you can see where the old stalk was, so you want that up. And then you cover this with about several, so that there's 3 or 4 inches of dirt on top of it, and water it good. And then as soon as the sprout comes up, you keep adding dirt back to the hole. You leave that hole open, and as it grows, you keep adding the dirt until it's even. And the reason for that is those stems are so large that they need that extra support.
Gotcha.
And even with that, sometimes I'll use a stake to
Really?
hold
So,
them
I mean,
up.
this thing is going to get big.
They do.
Well, the
they,
flowers
heavy.
are
Yeah.
just huge.
Yeah. Now, you wouldn't want to break this up
No.
if it gets too
No,
big? Because I know sometimes we do that with other ones, but not with dahlias.
No, and they can
Dahlias.
actually see on this one it's starting to sprout. So I haven't gotten it in because it really needs warm soil. And we haven't had warm soil until
Gotcha.
recently.
Gotcha.
So now I think I'm comfortable enough.
So no matter how large that piece gets, you never want to break a piece off.
Well,
No, well,
what it is that these are tubers.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, if I might just say, this is just storage. And so there is nothing there. There's no bud. It's all has to be attached to the stem. So
Gotcha.
it's right here at this base. So these are very difficult to kind of divide.
Yeah.
And so that's why you still keep these. And I do have a suggestion for you if you on how I start my dahlias, because I have quite a few. So I take a mesh, a tray that I got from the nursery. It has sides up about 6 inches, and it's just like a big box. You could use a cardboard box and line it with extra newspaper, but I put soil on the bottom, potting soil, and then I set all my tubers in one big tray, and then I put potting soil on top, and I just have it up on the south side of my house, up by my spigot, and I water it, and I wait for these to germinate and grow, and then once they're all growing, because when they get in the garden, I forget to go back and care for them as much. So I pre-sprout them, and then I go back, but I've never planted them as deep as you recommend. I'm going to do that.
That's what the manufacturer,
Yeah, I can see how that would be helpful, because sometimes I've had stems break off. So what a good idea.
Yeah.
See? Even the experts are always learning, right?
So again, pre-starting them for me works out really good, because I know they're going to go, and I've got them separated. They're kind of marked, but it doesn't really matter. I'm happy to get what I get.
Yes.
But I've got those started now, and my little dahlia shoots are probably up about this far. So about the 1st of June is when I'll set them into their place in the garden.
Excellent. So, okay, you've got some ideas there on how to plant those. And I tried because Karen pre-sprouts cannas.
Yeah.
And I did that this year, and it worked perfect.
Yeah.
I put them in a bin, thin layer potting soil on the bottom, and so boom, they were just ready to go out last weekend, and they already had nice leaves coming up and everything. So that was a really great idea.
Yeah, because that way you've got the dahlia started or the canna started in that warm potting soil while you're waiting for your soils to warm up. But then once you go right in, they're already ahead of the game.
And you know where they are, you can see them, and you're not just hoping that something happens right there.
Right,
So,
exactly.
excellent. Wonderful. Thank you. All right, Ella, we're back to you.
Okay, well, to finish up, I brought a couple different things from the allium family. Of course, right now we have chives, and there's all kinds of new chives and ornamental alliums out there that you can plant in the flower garden. But the ones that I am bringing today actually come from bulbs. So I have, this was not the best one, but this is a very beautiful one. It's not really that open yet, but you can see all the flowers that are going to come inside. And it's just going to make this large, round umbel of star-shaped purple flowers. This is Allium Christophori.
It looks like a firework.
Yes,
It's
kind
gorgeous.
of. There's another one called Schubertii or something that actually does dry like a large fireworks.
Wow.
And so this one can reseed and does reseed in my garden. And the reason I like this one is it doesn't have a real wide foliage, and so it can tuck in with other plants. And then this one, you can see, has already kind of finished up. It was purple, but now it's starting to set its seed here. And this one is called Purple Sensation. And again, I kind of let it reseed.
I was just going to ask if you could save the seeds and plant them.
Yes. And we're going to talk about that after I show this other one a
Excellent.
minute.
That looks a lot like Mongolian garlic chives.
Yes, I think they might
that-
call that that. Now this one is from the Mediterranean, and it used to be in the allium family, and it was Allium bulgaricum. So maybe from Bulgaria or
Maybe.
somewhere, I don't know. But anyway, this one is called, we said honey garlic.
Sicilian.
Sicilian honey garlic. But anyway, now it's a subspecies of the allium family. Again, just a spring blooming bulb that you can mail order for, or sometimes you can find it in packages in the marketplace. But it is now in a different subspecies. It's called Nectar scordum. I don't know.
They did not do us any favors with
Yes.
these Latin names today.
No.
None. No favors.
It
remember
is such a little cutie for the garden. So these seeds,
Yes.
one thing about allium and chive seeds is that their viability only lasts about one season.
Oh, okay.
So you don't want to buy old packages of chives at a discount because you'll have very poor germination. But now is the time to start saving seeds. And I save all the envelopes from the
Junk mail?
Yes. Well, not junk mail. It's just that I'm not always donating, but I use
gotcha.
these to save seed. And so I can just mark it. But as soon as these start to dry and before they open, I can just pick off, some of these seeds, put it in my envelope and label it and keep it. And then if I want to put these, I'll actually just wait for them to dry. And you can winter sow them, or you can throw them out now and they may or may not come up. But I have had several friends that actually spray paint these after they dry. You can spray them like orange or yellow or red or purple, and people will come up and go, "What is that plant in your garden?" And it's like, it's fake. It's, you just put a
Surprise.
piece of newspaper or cardboard behind it, spray paint it quick. I mean, they stay up in the garden for months.
That's
you know,
not a
they
bad
dry.
idea. That's kind of fun, actually.
Yeah, and of course they're used in flower arranging that way, but leaving them in the garden creates a kind of a unique perspective.
I agree. I agree. Might have to try that. I wanted to ask you, so for the spring flowers that have already bloomed, is it okay to cut foliage back, like tulips, for example? The foliage is starting to look a little rough, but it's still a little green. So when do we take those down? Because I know that there's a very important process after they bloom of storing energy for next season. So when is it okay to remove those? Neither one of you, feel free to.
I don't really remove them.
You don't? Okay.
No, I just.
Okay. You just let it sort of happen?
Yeah, and then if it completely dries, then you can kind of pull it off. But
Yeah, I wait as long as possible. One thing that I have done, some people believe in it, some people don't, is sometimes I take rubber bands and take all the daffodil foliage and kind of wind it up and rubber band it together so it's not
just
sprawling
yes,
out.
That's where I'm at.
Right.
The floppy
now,
stage.
The thing about the daffodils that's interesting is the bulb can get larger and larger every year. But on tulips, they have to replace the bulb the same way with glads. You know, you plant that bulb glad, it has to make a whole nother bulb, and it's the same way with the tulip. So tulips, it's very important to try to leave that green as long as possible so that you can make the replacement flower bulb as big as possible.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. We've got about 5 minutes left, and we've got a couple questions that you all sent in. So Susan Pettit sent us an email, and she wants to know what to do about deer eating her roses. And so I would love to hear the perspectives here, what you guys think of getting around that. So,
well, my suggestion isn't acceptable for a lot of people.
Kay said deer meat is delicious.
Deer meat is wonderful. I don't know if you can hang something that, flutters around. That might, like
scare them away?
Pinwheel type thing or something like that would scare them away.
Yeah, there are the impact sprinklers that are motion sensitive where that can come on, or there are some new technologies where there's motion sensors for like sound for like attached to like a radio or something where the sound would then scare them away. And of course there's scent deterrents, there's the liquid fence products that are a combination of different ingredients that are repulsive to the deer. There's animal urines that are used sometimes for deer repellent. And then of course some people believe in the soap, you can, it's
Irish Spring?
Yeah, Irish
I've heard
Spring
that.
soap.
I've heard that.
I'm not sure, but sometimes the easiest thing to do is to put up a physical barrier. Definitely beneficial for like fruit trees or something where they can't get close to it. So maybe putting a large tomato cage over it for a while till maybe the deer moves somewhere else. Or sometimes you really have to decide, maybe this isn't the best plant if the deer is always going to be in this location.
Yeah, they're a problem.
That's the price you pay of gardening.
I think too, sometimes if you've got a fence, you can tie like white ribbons that'll blow around. I think that scares them.
So
too.
scaring
But we
them?
had two the other night just walking right on the edge of our property.
They just didn't care, did they?
No.
Do you ladies, we got about a minute left. Do you ladies have your gardens in? Or what are you going to be working on, I guess?
Watering.
Watering.
I am spending so much time watering that vegetable garden.
I bet.
So I need to get my soaker hoses out because that's
Yes.
about the only answer.
Personally, I'm trying to stay ahead of the weeds. I did a lot of straw mulching because we're just so busy in the summer, and last year it got away from me. So weeds are my big chore. What about you?
It's weeds too. That is May and June, it's plant water weed, plant water weed kind of thing. But really right now I'm trying to edit some of the weedy flowers in my garden that have kind of taken over. I've got celandine poppy that's starting to seed now. I also weed whack in some of my native areas, try to knock down some of the different weeds so that they don't go to seed. And
That's the name of the game, getting them before they go to seed.
right. And I'm
Got about 30 seconds.
I'm not against herbicides, but I'm really trying to cut back on chemicals in my garden. And if that means more hand weeding, well, you know, so be it.
It's good exercise.
That's right.
All right.
And dirt under the nails.
Dirt under the nails.
I know.
Yeah, we've all got our hands under the table.
Yes. All right, ladies, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming in, and thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it. If you've got questions, send them in to yourgarden@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook. Just search Mid-American Gardener. We'll see you next time. Good night.